Jim, switching gears from finance, investments, capital markets into more of the bricks and sticks, bricks and mortar part of real estate. CBRE manages over 5 billion square feet of property globally, and in recent years, your company has invested over $100 million in tenant improvements for your own space and your own employees. And you've gone with this sort of 100% unassigned seating. So is CBRE an outlier in the way it uses its space, and how are companies changing the way that they use office space? What will the impact on the industry be?
Well, this is I think, a very interesting topic. And I know you'll recall, as unfortunately I do as well, in the early 1990s, the concept around free addressing at the time was referred to as hoteling. And it was a big movement. And the driver for that movement was reduced occupancy costs. And it was being driven by, I would say, largely accounting firms and consulting firms. And the predictions as to the impact on the industry at that time were generally in the flavor of we're going to have 30% overcapacity in office buildings across the United States, and there won't be a need to develop another office building in the rest of our careers. Obviously, that didn't play out. We went on to have huge increases in demand for office facilities. And I think largely the reason it didn't play out is that people hated the space. And so while you could achieve savings, it doesn't do much for you if everybody hates the space. The movement we're seeing today is entirely different, and it was driven initially by creative, successful firms like Google or Bloomberg. And their objective, unlike the objective of the 90s, which was to reduce occupancy cost, the objective today for this type of movement is to attract talent and to encourage creative collaboration in beautiful spaces. And when I look at what we've done and think about the journey we've been through, so we've now built out this type of space in 30 major markets around the world over the last 2 or 3 years. And you learn as you go. The first thing I would say is it's expensive, it's hard to execute, and it requires considerable determination and change management. So you can imagine that if we came into your work environment here, where I imagine most people have closed offices and said, hey, we've got this great new concept. You're going to come in the morning and you have all kinds of choices of where you might sit. It's like a coffee shop with 5 choices attached to a high-end kind of corporate environment, WeWork type environment. But you no longer have a place. You have a little locker somewhere, but you no longer have your space. That would require a lot of change management. And it does. And you have to start by coming in 6 to 12 months before you're even going to begin to make a move and transforming the way people work and digitizing your workforce. So you've got to go into people's space. You have to take their files drawer by drawer, scan them, and organize them in the same way that they're accustomed to accessing their own files. So that's just kind of one of the baby steps. So there's a lot of change management. But I would say the impact on our organization has been fantastic, and we're completely committed to the idea. Again, the driver is not savings. Net, I would say it's about a wash in overall expense. You can reduce the square footage that you'll need over time and therefore reduce the rent, but your investment in space is significant, maybe on average a couple $100 a square foot. Technology, workstations, great architecture, and nicely done facilities. As far as if you think about the impact, so I'll take as an example a typical request that comes to me on the capital committee as CFO of our company. It's we have a 25,000 square foot office. It's generally packed to the gills. The lease is up, or the lease isn't up, and we need more space. If we were to stay with a traditional structure, we might sign a 5-year lease and take 32 or 33,000 square feet. Instead, we lease space in the best building in town, probably. We still take 25,000 square feet, but we've created 30% capacity to grow. Instead of signing a 5-year lease, we're signing a 10-year lease. A, because we have more flexibility and more capacity to grow, but B, because we're spending a lot of money on the space, and so we're going to amortize it over a longer period of time. And we're more likely to pick the best building or one of the top 3 buildings in town than any one of the top 10 buildings in town because of the amount we're investing and the time frame we're going to likely be in that building. So if you extrapolate that into the market as a whole, I would say as this, I believe, will continue to get traction, this movement will continue to get traction, but it's definitely not for everybody and it's hard to execute. So I think the impact will be a modest slowdown in the increase in annual absorption i.e., we're taking the same space we're in today, but we probably won't take as much as we might have otherwise over time. I think the difference in value between the best buildings in a market and one tier down will continue to widen. I think that's really the impact.